Happy Wine Wednesday, everyone. I hope you're having a fabulous week. We are back with Wine Wednesday with the Whisperer. I need to put Whisperer, as we all are, right? But I am sipping on some Chardonnay. Let me know in the comments which you're sipping on. Tonight, I didn't do a big ad about tonight because it's a very important topic. It's going to be over that, but and Cheryl, I'm going to mute you just while you're eating, honey. But so sorry, start over here. First of all, if you're on Instagram, don't forget, if you want to do more than just listen to us and you want to see the videos, jump on over to YouTube and search Seahorse Whisperer will be the first thing you see. You should be able to see the videos, though, of the freshwater dips that I'm going to play because of the aspect ratio of the video. But if you can't, hop on over to YouTube. Also, as I just mentioned, I have been working on a video, an actual video that won't be Wine Wednesday for people in the future to use to like show the differences and how to do a freshwater dip, showing the differences and, what does it mean if this happens? What does it mean if that happens? But we wanted tonight to, first of all, give a little credit because both Holly and Heather, or Seahorse Corner, did some excellent posts that really I'll show you in a minute. And basically tonight, I'm just going to show a couple of clips so that we can show you what we kind of talk about all the time. Because it's easy to say, well, if the seahorse reacts, that means that this or that. But, without seeing it, it's kind of more difficult. I will give a warning right now. Hey, Melinda. Hey, everybody. That the video of mine that I am going to show may be disturbing to some people because the seahorse does react. I want to be very clear, there was no seahorses harmed in the making of this clip or in the video, okay? They all survived and are doing great. And basically, Dan's talked about this repeatedly, that freshwater dips can be used as a treatment, but they're really very incredible as a diagnostic tool. So, Holly, what does that mean to you, that we can use it as a diagnostic tool?
Well, basically, if they react, it means that they have ciliates that are bugging them. And what happens is the ciliates will explode and try to get out of the seahorse. And of course, it's uncomfortable for the seahorse. So they start freaking out, but they're freaking out for a good reason. They're getting rid of the ciliates.
Right.
Now, if they're not reacting, then it means that they don't have ciliates or they don't have enough of them to really bother them.
And Ray, would you say that a freshwater dip can be used to diagnose more than just ciliates?
Oh boy.
I mean, it's good for any
I've never
parasites,
used
right?
it for anything other than that, but basically it's a case of when you're to diagnose ciliates, you're trying to find an answer to another problem. Like maybe it's not feeding. And if it's not feeding because ciliate infestation in the gills, and so you do the freshwater dip, and if ciliates is indicated, then there'd be some improvement for that. And then also you can use a formalin treatment afterwards, and then see if that's going to lead to recovery so that the seahorse can feed again. You're not looking for instant results, though. The problem didn't start and happen instantly, and it's not going to get better instantly. Too many people expect something right away, whether it be something like an infestation of parasites, or whether it's bacterial. And they get all upset if they put a seahorse in a hospital tank and maybe they're treating with formalin for the parasites, or they're treating with an antibiotic for bacteria, and they don't understand why after a few days the seahorse hasn't shown any signs of changes. And it's a case of you have to have patience, because nothing happens instantly.
The problem didn't happen instantly, and the solution won't either, right?
Most of these problems develop over a month or months, and can even be longer than that. So don't expect it to happen to get better in a couple of days, or even necessarily in a week.
And what I'm showing you right now is just showing you that the full video, oh, you probably don't want to see my kid, but the full video will cover formalin. Gosh, she was like, that's like 7 years ago, a little kid. But basically all these clips are little clips that'll be part of the full video that'll show both freshwater dips, formalin, how to use them, why to use them, when to use them. So that is coming, guys. And I mean, I'm showing you I'm working on it, so you really will see this come. So be on the lookout for that. And then also, well, Cheryl, real quick, what do you want to add? Anything else about dips that you want to add real quick before?
Just basically, even if a seahorse does react negatively, it could be caused by something else other than ciliates. I've seen it happen. I saw a seahorse, it wasn't my seahorse, but it snicked a bristleworm and ended up with spicules inside the snout. And the seahorse definitely was not happy. In fact, she tried to get him out. I don't think the seahorse made it. So just be aware that there may be other causes to it as well.
To the problem or to the reaction to the dip?
Yeah, why would it react to the dip?
Yeah.
Should have been reacting all the time if it's a problem.
Well, is that what you meant, Cheryl?
She saw it happen. She put the seahorse into a formalin bath and then assumed it was a bath. Gotcha.
So pay attention if they're freaking out before, and then you do a dip or something like that. It may not be, you may not be actually seeing the targeted problem. Yeah. Exactly. And I would just say, like, Holly and Ray and Cheryl pretty much covered it, but like Dan always covers the fact that people, I personally, I've muted myself in the video I'm going to show you of my seahorse from many years ago because I was flipping out. Literally, it's a screen share of a FaceTime call I had with Dan where I'm saying, is this normal? Why is he doing this? I'm freaking out, all upset. And what he tries to get across and explain to people is that the freshwater, the osmosis bound, look, I'm not science, guys. I'm not scientist, but he explained pretty well in previous Wine Wednesdays, and will explain in a video that the freshwater for that amount of time does not hurt the seahorse like in any way. The only way it could hurt the seahorse is if there's an open wound bacterial infection, which obviously, you know, you would see that before you even tried the dip. But what it does, as Holly so eloquently explained, is the ciliates can't handle the difference in the salinity. The seahorse can for that limited time, and we'll show you, like Holly's and Heather's, you know, didn't react very much because they didn't have a problem. So just sitting in the fresh water, they were kind of like, what the heck? I don't like this, but they weren't. You'll see the difference when I show you guys in a second. So, and I did want to also say that, let me just go ahead and share Heather's right now. Let me see. So this is Seahorse Corners video. Whoops, not that one. Oh, where is it? Hang on. Okay, maybe that is hers. Okay, so this is Seahorse Corners video, and what I did want to show you is that, sorry guys, I'm trying to get it here. Okay, there we go. So what I did want to show you is that she did a post. Why is it not showing up here? There we go. Okay, sorry. So this is Heather. Sorry, Heather, if I wasn't supposed to show you personal, I'll put that up. But she did an excellent, like, I mean, it's basically an article. Explains what ciliates are, explains why it matters, explains how they're digest. I mean, this is, I mean, when the website's done, I've already gotten Heather's permission to use this as an article because it's so well written and covers so much. So if you're not friends with her, go be friends with her. And if you just don't know her at all, then definitely get with me on the side because this will be on the website because this is an excellent write-up about it. And I haven't even watched this video. So we're going to, in this perspective, and he's doing great now. But let's see. Okay, so this, in this case, the seahorse does react. So let's take a quick watch here. And basically, the seahorse is in a small hospital tank type situation. She gave it a hitch and an airline, and that seahorse is thrashing around. So when you see something like that in a freshwater dip, and we will go into a little bit more about how to set up the freshwater dip. I should have done that first. But when they start reacting like that and thrashing around, then you know you've got a ciliate problem very likely. And this does, and they can play dead at the bottom. Again, no seahorses were hurt in the making of this video, promise. But they, you know, what's happening, as Holly said, is that the ciliates are either burrowing in deeper or trying to get off the seahorse to get out of the fresh water. And, you know, it's irritating. you know, kind of gross, little bugs, but yeah, so there's that. And definitely this will be on the website when we're done. Let me stop sharing that. Now let me show you a comparison, and then we can get into a little more discussion about how to set up the dip. All right, so here is Holly's seahorse. And then Holly, I'll let you kind of tell us, let me get it up first, but then I'll let you, hang on. Sorry guys, it takes a second here. Oh, I gotta mute it. Okay, so here is Holly's video. Let me get Sharon. So Holly, tell us what we are seeing here.
Okay, so this is Candy getting her freshwater dip. And first thing, she wouldn't let go of me. I was trying to film her, and Dan suggested I put the timer when I made the video so people could see what goes on at the certain minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So what I do when I'm doing a freshwater dip is I set the timer for 12 minutes, but I stay there constantly to watch. And the way it's done is that at the 8-minute mark, if the seahorse is still calm and not reacting, you can take the seahorse out. It doesn't have a problem. If it starts reacting at the 8-minute mark, or I've seen it even happen like shortly after, then you want to leave them in for the full 12 minutes.
Yep. And can you tell us, Holly, go ahead and tell us while we're watching this, because yours is much longer than the rest of them. Tell us, and this is an excellent video showing a seahorse that does not have a ciliate problem, because this is a seahorse in freshwater.
Yeah, so you can see she's in, I just use a goldfish bowl with a hitch and just put enough water in there, to cover her really and make her comfortable. But she's next to her house, next to the main tank where she lives. So you can see she's looking over there. She wants to go home. She's like, well, what the heck, Mom? Why'd you put me in here? But she's not thrashing around. She's just confused and wants to go home. And, I'm sure it's not pleasant sitting in the fresh water, but she's not freaking out. And then you can see the time clicking on my phone timer counting down. And so I'm just watching her to see if she's going to have a reaction, because I have had seahorses be fine until that 8-minute mark, and even a few seconds later. So I like to leave them in long enough, to be sure that they're not going to react.
And tell me a little bit about how you set up this freshwater dip. What's the seahorse in? How did you figure out the water?
I honestly followed Dan's direction and did not worry about the pH. I just took tap water and mixed it with the AquaSafe, that makes water safe for aquariums.
Sure.
And I used that. I matched temperature, and that was it. Gave her a hitch and an air stone, because like Dan says, they're only in there 12 minutes max. Right. So he told me you don't really have to worry about matching the pH. They do tell you to do that. I've read to do that, but honestly, I don't. And as you can see, she's fine, and she was fine afterwards.
Amen.
It took her a little while to recover from being in the fresh water. I put her back in her tank right after, and then she was kind of breathing like I'm switching from fresh water to salt water again. And then she started begging for food a half hour later.
Yes.
And ate dinner like an hour later and was totally fine and happy.
And how big is the container that the seahorse is in?
This is a goldfish bowl, and I would say it holds maybe 1.5 gallons of water, maybe 2 max. So just a little goldfish bowl, and that was so that, I could see her and see what's going on.
Yep. And Cheryl Ray, do we have any other questions? I want to unmute Cheryl here.
I've never used anything other than a 2-liter plastic ice cream bucket, and
Wow.
I put a couple cups of water in it. I
Yeah.
don't put any air in it. I don't put any hitching or anything. And usually the seahorse has to lie down because it's not deep enough. And I don't worry about it.
Well, you're just mean, Ray.
Well, and you can see she doesn't hitch. She's not hitching.
Right.
And I
Yeah, but
really
the thing
didn't
is, you're not
expect her
trying
to.
make the seahorse comfortable. All you want, you're doing this just to get some answers. So anything else is just frills, and the seahorse generally at that point, they're going to be stressed from being in the water, and hitching and air is not going to stop it from being stressed.
Well, yeah, but look at her seahorse. It's cuddled up to the hitch. Cheryl, why do we recommend having an airline in a freshwater dip?
It really isn't necessary because they're not going to be there long enough to really deplete the O2 saturations. But it's one of those things, if you're using like a formalin dip, you do have to put an airline in there because it depletes the oxygen very rapidly. So it's just a good habit to get into, in my opinion.
Yep, mine too. And not saying, I mean, Ray, obviously it worked for you and that's fine, but most of us hobbyists, you know, these are our children. We don't want to see them miserable.
Yeah.
The whole reason for the freshwater dip is to
it makes me feel like she's happier, and it makes for a prettier video.
There you go. There you go. Well, actually,
many times I wish I was able to give my real children a saltwater dip.
Right. No, I hear you. And I will tell you, you'll be surprised when you see my video, which is next. Again, these are just clips, guys. The true video that explains everything will be a video that I'll share later. But I literally used a little, well, you'll see in a minute, but a little thin plastic Tupperware container type deal for my freshwater dip. I did use an airline.
She is going to hitch, or she was going to for a bit. You know,
it looks like she enjoys the bubbles too.
She does, yeah. She went and sat in the bubbles for a little bit, but
well, because it is
how she wants to go home. You know, like I said, her house is on the other side over there. She can see home. She's like, why am I in here?
Well, and this is a good example.
This sucks.
Sorry, this is a good example too of, again, a seahorse that doesn't have enough of a problem to worry about. Didn't hurt the seahorse to do the dip. But it's not, I mean, it still is uncomfortable. So I'm going to get to your question, Melinda, in a second. But this is a good example of, you know, the seahorse will turn dark. You know, they're not happy, but it's not hurting them. It's hurting anything that's on them or in their gills, right? So that's why it can be used as a diagnostic tool. Melinda wants to know, and I think we talked about this with Dan, but should every seahorse you buy get a freshwater dip before adding to your tank, or only if you see a problem with the seahorses? Ray, you first.
I've never dipped a seahorse without there being a reason for doing it.
And what are the reasons you usually dip?
When you bring it home, you're just adding to the stress of the change from where you bought it from to where you're going to put it. So unless there's a reason for it, I don't bother doing it. Some people don't put it in a tank right away. They just put it in a hospital tank and observe it. And then if you see some reason for it, then to have a dip, that's fine. But to just automatically do it, it's not my preferred treatment.
I believe that was Dan's answer too, is that they're already, like, what we're trying to promote here is that a freshwater dip is safe for the seahorse. It is very effective in determining if they have ciliates or other parasitical problems. And, it's a good diagnostic and treatment tool. But you know, when it does cause stress, it's not going to hurt the seahorse, but if you have a seahorse that just got through being shipped and in a box, being crated all over, when you open the bag, it's instant ammonia. Okay, let's stop sharing that. And etc. Well, I wouldn't do it to every seahorse I got, especially if I trusted the breeder. And that's a key. When you see my video in a second, I had made a mistake and bought from someone I didn't know and didn't have a good reputation, and I'm not going to say their name, but yeah, I ended up with seahorses that had lots of problems. They, not only like the first day, but they literally had trouble eating right away, did the coughing, which you actually see my seahorse do a cough in the video that I'm about to show. But Holly, anything to add to that about whether or not you should dip a seahorse right away?
I don't.
Okay.
But I buy captive bred, like you said, and I just add them to the tank. I don't quarantine them or anything.
Another
Cheryl,
thing to
thoughts?
consider, that the stress that you would put them through in doing a dip might make them more susceptible to bacterial
Yeah.
infection when you put them in the tank.
Great point.
Mhm.
Great point. Because if your tank's not, if you don't know if it's not up to par, if it's your first seahorses or something, you never know how the tank's doing, really. Cheryl, anything to add to any of this?
When I get new seahorses, they go into a separate tank, and they're kept there for, depending on where they came from, it could be up to 6 months or longer before they go in with any other seahorses. I'm just overly cautious because I have seen a lot of problems. But normally, if you buy from a reputable breeder, you shouldn't have these kind of problems to have to deal with them. They should have already cleared them out of ciliates and any other problems.
And Melinda said, so it's the same as a freshwater dip for fish when they have ick, basically. And I didn't know that freshwater dip was a way to treat ick because the tank still has it. But that's kind of a good point, because it's been a long time since I had freshwater, to be honest. So I don't know if the time difference, if there's a difference in the time limits. Always follow the instructions. The instructions are currently on Seahorse Sources group page on Facebook, and will be on the website once we get it up, and are in Heather's post. She did a great job. But as Holly said, with saltwater seahorses that you're dipping in freshwater, it's always, oh no, and you're not talking about freshwater fish. I'm sorry.
Yeah, the saltwater fish.
Sorry.
They are a shorter time. I think they're 4 or 5 minutes.
Okay, so maybe they can't handle it as much. Whereas seahorses, as Holly said, you want to do at least 8 minutes, because as you just watched Holly seahorse for 12 minutes, she chilled the whole time. And if you don't go the 8 minutes, and they, might have started reacting at 9 minutes or 8 minutes and 2 seconds, then you've kind of, done it for nothing. But we did talk last week too about the fact that one thing that's different when I think ciliates versus ick is that ciliates will always be in your tank. I know they say it can always be in your tank too, but many people disagree with that. And all I'm trying to say is, with ciliates, it's more of a case that if the seahorse has a ciliate problem and reacts to the freshwater dip, then you have to do more than just freshwater dip the seahorse and think that it's all better. I know the same is with ick. I guess it is the same, but basically you put it back in the tank. But as Ray's pointed out numerous times, then you have to do some work figuring out why you have a ciliate infestation. Right, Ray?
Sorry, I'm just sitting here typing in here.
Oh, no, my question was, if you do a freshwater dip and the seahorse reacts and you have a ciliate infestation and it's not some other parasite, the big question is, but then you put it back into the tank and the ciliates are in the tank. So isn't it just going to be reinfested? So wouldn't the proper thing to do be to realize that, clear the seahorse of the ciliates that are in the gills currently, put it back in the tank, or a hospital tank if you want, but then you have to figure out the source of the problem. You have to clean the tank and figure out where you're failing it with the tank, right? Or how would you say that?
You always have ciliates in the tank.
Right.
It's impossible to not have them.
Right.
So if ciliates get to be problematic, it indicates that the populations have increased, and that's usually because the tank hasn't had proper husbandry. In other words, hasn't been cleaned properly or sufficiently. It's been overfed, hasn't had sufficient water changes and water volume sizes. So the first thing I would do, I guess, if it indicates that there was a severe problem, yes, I'd put it in a hospital tank. If there was no indication or anything, I'd put it back, even though that there is some stress there. And it is possible that the stressed seahorse might pick up a bacterial infection when you put it back in. But usually
they're happy to be home.
you're usually going to be okay in that situation, because if they're well enough to handle the little bit of ciliates that's there, you're okay. Usually the ciliates are going to go up in population when the bacteria goes up.
Okay.
So
So is that related to organics, like how dirty the tank is? Or
involved organics is the number one thing in my mind, mainly because I have no way to test it.
right.
A laboratory can do tests on it, but we have no test kit available to the hobbyist.
Sure.
That's why preventive maintenance is the number one thing.
Preventive maintenance. And Melinda, that's why you are so intelligent. Don't you ever apologize. We want questions. That's the whole reason we do this, is to share, of course, with the community. But, you know, new people, we want to help you get set up properly so you never have these problems. You know, buying captive bred from a trusted breeder is the number one thing. If you do that, chances are darn good that you'll never see these problems. But real quick, Cheryl, what are some of the symptoms that you see that would make you say, do a freshwater dip?
The first thing I'm always looking at is what I call yawning, where the seahorse will sit there, retract their trigger, basically their hyoid bone, and open their mouth. And instead of just opening it and closing it, they would when they were breathing, they leave it open for a longer period of time.
Mm-hmm.
That, and combined with head bobbing, can go along with it also. Those are the first two things I'm looking for when I'm looking for a problem with ciliates or with
Parasites.
Parasites or physical damage. You know, the classic snick nasty shrimp or something.
Sure. No, I agree 100%. Great points. And I want to really quick go left field here and say, hey, Salty, hey, Chimp, are you going to MACNA? We will be talking about MACNA after we finish Freshwater Dip. So stick around. But Ray, anything to add to that? What would make you see, what would a seahorse be doing in a tank that would make you say, you know what, I'm going to freshwater dip this seahorse? Like what symptoms? She said yawning, maybe not eating, or scratching. What do you look for?
It's probably been exclusively not eating. Okay. I haven't had that I can recall. There may have been instances, but at my age and with my memory, in 19 years, that's a lot of memories. And I don't recall dipping without it being a not eating thing. I guess there might be signs sometimes before they stop eating, like the yawning that Cheryl was mentioning. I don't know. If there's
okay, well,
a lot of scratching against hitching, you might want to consider it then, but it would have to be, if it was just scratching against hitching, then it would have to be pretty extreme for me to want to submit it to a water dip.
That's interesting. Okay, a couple little things. Number one, for some reason, Ray was breaking up to me, but it could have been my AirPods. If you guys ever have a trouble hearing any of us, please say so in the comments so we can fix it. Also, I love the salty chimp. That's awesome. I love your little fist bumps in the comments. Thank you. We'll talk about MACNA in a minute. But Holly, what do you think about? I'm going to make a comment about scratching. Mm-hmm. So what other things would make you do a freshwater dip? And do you agree with what's been said so far?
I do agree with what's been said. And the thing for me, why I decided to give Candy a freshwater dip, and she got to play guinea pig for me, was because I don't have the experience with seahorses to be able to tell how much of the behavior to watch for. Because what I see them doing, is every once in a while somebody will yawn. Every once in a while, somebody will scratch their head on the hitch. When they eat, they spit out food sometimes, so I see the things that you watch for, that they weren't happening constantly all the time. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, well, is it or isn't it a problem? I don't really know. So I decided to take the plunge with Candy, and she's my second oldest seahorse, but Dandy's handicapped, So I figure, well, she's been in there the longest. So if there is a problem, she would have the most problem probably. And she's also really friendly and has a good disposition. So I was sorry, Candy, you're gonna have to take one team today.
But she did great.
She was fine. So then it eased my mind, and I didn't dip any of the other ones because I'm like, well, if she doesn't have a problem, probably none of them do either. So it did help
real
me
quick,
as far as being able to tell.
See, a diagnostic tool. That's my whole point.
Mhm.
Perfect points, Holly. And Ray, the only thing that I would ask about what Holly just said is, oh, wow, it just totally left me. Hang on. It's going to come back. I can feel it. It's coming back. It's coming back. No, but, Ray, you've said, right? You've said multiple times, though, that it also does depend on the immune system of the seahorse, right? So if Candy's just
I'm sorry, it depends on what?
The immune system and strength of this particular seahorse. So if you dip your oldest and strongest seahorse, obviously, as Holly said, that's a darn good indication that you don't have a problem, and what you're seeing is just normal seahorse behavior. But if you have all new seahorses and you don't know much about them, like if you were to dip them soon after you got them, then one could be worse than the other, right? Or am I saying that right? Or
you don't know that. There might be one exhibiting symptoms like scratching on hitching and that. So there's something parasitic that's bothering it. And you just don't know the degree. But you don't know if that particular seahorse has good immune system, better than others, or whether it's worse. It's something we'll never ever know.
But so observation is the most important. Observing and learning your seahorses.
If the seahorse is well-rounded and looking good, then most times you have to assume that. But if you look at, there's all sorts of adults look perfectly all right, and yet
then they're nuts sick. Like me. No,
they're always sick or getting hurt.
Yeah.
So it's something that's very hard to really pinpoint.
And Cheryl, I wondered from you before I make my comments, because in my case, scratching is an indication for me. Like if I see a seahorse, doing the itch with its head or itching its body or whatever, it freaks me out and I start to worry. And that's a case where I'm likely to freshwater dip the one that's scratching the most, especially if they're all scratching. But I had a situation recently where I actually had to reach out. Dan was busy, so I reached out to Chris Carey from Australia. And I was like, Chris, does this, do you think I have a problem? These new seahorses, it's been a while since I've, kept new seahorses, and they're scratching their sides on like the rock. And I was like, I know the tank has these weird copepod type bug things. That's not ciliate you can't see. So I know they're crawling on the seahorses. Do you think it's just the bugs or what? And we actually narrowed it down to, number one, yes, the bugs were bugging them. But number two, so I knew I had to, get rid of the bugs or at least minimize their existence in the tank. And then number two, for some reason, this pair does a lot of, how you see a male when a male is courting with a female and he wants to show the female that he's the one to carry her babies, he'll start doing this kind of stuff, like knocking her with his head. It's crazy. Well, this pair of seahorses that I'm talking about, they do that, but they also the male will scratch to show off his body or something. I don't know, but I do believe it's not the case that it's a problem. So just what's your thoughts on scratching, Cheryl?
Well, when it's a pair like that, if they're courting, I don't get too upset if they act a little weird, because they've got one thing on their mind, and it's making fry. And rubbing up against stuff, they'll rub up against each other. They'll go after other seahorses and bump them and do all kinds of goofy stuff. What I want to see is, if I put food in there, I want to see them snick it and ingest it without any problems. I don't want them scratching their head or their gills or anything else with their tail.
Yep, I'm going to show that in a minute.
Yeah. And in other words, I'm looking for other things other than just kind of the rubbing up against each other kind of stuff.
And I guess the only answer I'm looking for from you guys in this case, for people like me and like Holly and like anybody new, is again, Holly and I both indicated that, oh my gosh, my seahorse scratched twice in a day. Is that a problem? So how much scratching, like I know it depends on your experience level and you just kind of know, but is there, like, if a seahorse scratches once an hour, should you be worried? If it snicks, fine one eating, but the next time it spits out food, like, are there anything you can give us as far as expert opinion on the levels of a problem? Does that make sense? Did the question make sense?
I don't get excited unless I see them. There's such a thing as they're scratching, and there's such a thing as rubbing up against stuff and trying to impress the ladies or whatever.
Okay.
And
Okay.
that's, I think, the first thing that is hard for new people, because they're going to look at everything as being scratching and then want to do something about it. And in reality, seahorses do all kinds of goofy things.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
They'll rub up against each other.
So maybe we can say it's like obsessive scratching you want to watch for.
Yeah.
Where they're like,
yeah.
And I had a question because I've never seen it. When I was raising fry and I treated them with formalin, one of the things I'd watch for is they'd scratch their heads with their tails.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Do adult seahorses do that?
Yes.
Just wait until you see my video, Holly. It's coming. You're going to see a seahorse doing it like crazy. But Ray, last question before I show my little clip. Cheryl just kind of gave us an indication, excessive scratching. What about feeding? Because one of my worries when we do these Wine Wednesdays or videos is that someone new is going to get seahorses and the seahorse doesn't eat the first time you feed them. And they think, oh my gosh, there's a problem. I got a freshwater dip. So what would be your advice as far as new seahorses and then even older seahorses? Like if they don't eat one time because maybe they're courting or maybe they don't want to. And guys, we're still here when we turn our cameras off. We're just dealing with family stuff. I'll be right back. But Ray, you're the sole person. So tell us your thoughts on how to determine feeding is a problem enough to do a freshwater dip.
Well, if it's a new seahorse to you, don't worry about the feeding problem because stresses of the move in itself can affect different seahorses different ways. Some might eat right soon after being put in. Some of them might be a couple days. But if you get into a third day, then I'd be awful concerned.
Gotcha. And Salty Reef, thank you so much, Salty Reef, for the super chat. Don't forget, guys, if this information is valuable and helping you, don't forget you can super chat to support the channel. And thumbs up, of course. Cheryl, what were you going to say? Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I kind of do things a little different because over the years. And what I do is when I get new seahorses, I put them in the tank. I keep the lights down, just basically ambient lighting. I cover the sides to make sure they're not frightened. And I let them sit for a couple of hours. Mm-hmm. Then the next thing I do after a couple of hours is I give them a small amount of live food. And to be honest with you, I've never seen a self-respecting seahorse that didn't start going after live food. It may take them a few minutes to looking at it and trying to decide if it's really safe. And that they're eating.
Wait a minute, Cheryl. What you mean is I actually have a video of this. Go check out on the Seahorse Whisperer channel how to feed seahorses. And there's one that's called Unboxing and Feeding Methods. Great videos. And you'll see my little piebald. I put in live foods and he looks at the food and he looks at me. And he looks at the food like he's trying to figure out, is it
safe? Yeah.
Go on, though. Sorry.
I get worried if they don't start paying attention to the live food. That's when I start to think, that's when I start watching really close. But if they're going after food after a couple hours in a new tank because it's live food, I'm not too worried about them.
Well, and, it could be a whole nother discussion about whether things can come in on live food because I've had that happen on old nasty Artemia. So, but that's a whole nother discussion. But in my case, like, definitely new seahorses, I give them a while. I watch those videos for some tips and tricks on how to get them eating. And for those of you that don't have live foods, I usually don't have live foods for the first feeding, just because even though I know they're captive bred and from reputable breeders, I still always worry, like, are they going to revert on me? Because I've tried to raise fry, and weaning them is witch is what I meant to say, but it's awful trying to wean them, in my opinion. I'm not good at tough love. But anyways, I'm rambling, but bottom line is, I think for me, it's when a seahorse, again, not obsessively, but consistently doesn't eat much, or does the yawning, as Cheryl said, or spits food up more every time they eat, like, yeah, that kind of thing. Any other comments, guys, before I show my little clip?
I was just going to say, when I get concerned is if they start to snick the food and keep spitting it back out and they're not actually swallowing. That's another indication of some potentially serious issues. And again, you got to look at the size of the food in relation to the size of the seahorse. Feeding PE mysis to a 3-month-old is probably not going to go over real well.
Great point, because I've, for instance, my Barbori, they would so particularly look at the food. They would only eat pieces of mysis frozen that had eyeballs still attached. It had to have the eyeballs or they would not eat it. It was ridiculous, but I'm telling you, it's the truth. And also, I like Cheryl's point about the size of the food, because if it's a large piece of food, I've seen a seahorse try to gobble down a large piece of food, spit half of it back up, and then grab it again and suck it down. So, and with smaller fry, I've got videos, guys, of little teeny tiny fry trying to eat brine shrimp the size of their head. I mean, they are trying. They're trying to nip at it and trying hard.
I posted one the other day of one of my fry hunting a full-grown brine shrimp. And yeah, it was like a little predator hunting it down. It like injured it first and nipped it and then went after it. What I wanted to add, though, I've noticed about the spitting out thing, because my seahorses do that sometimes, and I didn't realize until maybe within the last year or so that this was going on, because I always assumed when they were snicking the shrimp when I fed them that they're eating one at a time. And what I've noticed in my adult seahorses, the older ones, they don't necessarily eat that way. They don't snick one at a time. They'll snick a whole mouthful and spit out the extra. So part of it, I thought, was them, like we said, choking and spitting stuff out. They were just getting too big a mouthful of food sometimes, because they weren't going piece by piece by piece, especially like when I use Hikari, and every once in a while the size is smaller. Like Cheryl and I have talked about it, the winter harvest. So especially when they're smaller pieces, they try to get a whole mouthful, like a dog eating a mouthful of dog food. And so I think sometimes they're spitting it out because they got too much in the snick.
Great.
Okay, and I wanted to say really quickly, Spuck Jr., thank you for coming. It's people like you that we love having newcomers come and ask questions and such. But Ray gave a perfect link for you, and I posted it for him to Seahorse Sources group on Facebook. We are still working on a website, but until that website's done, Seahorse Sources group on Facebook is the most excellent place for information. All 4 of us that do Wine Wednesday are in that group, and most of us are admin. And so you're going to, even if you got an answer that wasn't perfect, you're going to get us coming back and correcting it. And the files section, as Ray pointed out, is an excellent source. I've shown it multiple times. Also, I would say this channel, not just Wine Wednesday where we answer questions, but we do specific videos, or we have guest speakers that talk about specific things. Dan Underwood, who is Seahorse Source, or previously Seahorse Source. If you're on Seahorse Whisperer on YouTube, search for beginning tank setup or new seahorses, because we've done tons of interviews with him where he goes over and answers questions like what you're talking about. But we always want you to come and ask the question again. That's why we're here. So any questions, we're here for you.
I'd like to pipe in One of my favorite pastimes is with the young seahorses. Usually it starts when they're about 2.5 to 3 inches. And two of them are going for the same peat mice and shrimp. And they're stuck snout to snout trying to get the mice and shrimp away from the other one. And they finally end up breaking it into 2 pieces and they each get some. But to me, that's classic seahorse behavior in youngsters.
And
There's-
Spuck Jr. says his, oh, sorry, Cheryl, go ahead. Were you finished?
Yeah.
Okay. Spuck Jr. said, my daughter's, 12 and wants something beyond clownfish and coral in the house. Well, we're here to help you, sir, or ma'am, whichever. And a 12-year-old can definitely do it. My daughter started helping me with seahorses when they were 5. So, and they know how to feed them. I actually did a video where my daughter mocks me doing tank setup. Like she literally goes through the stuff as if she was me. So check that out too. But real quick, guys, again, anyone who, this video is kind of scary looking, but I'm telling you, the seahorse not only recovered, but did well because of it. But I'm going to show you my video, my little clips now of the seahorse that I got from an unknown source. And the reason I put, I'm sorry, I keep forgetting my camera. Whoops, hang on. The reason that I put the seahorse in a freshwater dip is because it had been days, it was not eating properly, and it was scratching its head with its tail, which you'll see in this video, and scratching itself obsessively. So I knew there was a problem. It was like that from the moment I got it. It wasn't the tank. It was a brand new tank. So freshwater dip. And in this video, you can't hear anything because I'm not going to play the sound because I was literally on call with Dan saying, oh, what do I do? Oh my God, why is he flipping like that? Oh, geez. So please don't be scared. This is not scary. It helped him, but let me show you the videos. And there's a point where you see a yawn. I'm going to try to get us, I doubt I can pause it at that point, but I'll try. All right, there's 2 of them. Here's the first one, MP dip 1. All right. Here we go. Oh, hang on. Let me turn this off. And then, where are you? All right, here we go. So this is a seahorse. And literally, as I told you, it was this. You see the size of the seahorse and you see the size of the container. It was literally just like one of those potato salad or, Payless supermarket, what they give you with the salads that they have, the little container. And I would advise using a bigger one. Just saying that out loud. But I did correct the pH. I went through all the ridiculous steps that we now know aren't as important. But this seahorse was in pH, temp, and everything the same as its tank, except for it was fresh water. And I did use RODI or distilled water. Had an airline. I did not include a hitch. In a minute, I'll show you what I more recommend. But this was my first freshwater dip. And you can see the seahorse react. Here we go. Oh, I forgot to mute myself here.
That is one upset seahorse.
Yes, and it's not because of the freshwater dip. See it scratching its head? It's going at its gills because it wants, because they're attacking it. Not me, the ciliates. And it's gills.
They're trying to get out of the seahorse, yeah. Because they fight
wants them out.
Yep. Now, so did it start reacting right away, or is this a few minutes
Right
in?
away. Right away. And this was a seahorse from an unknown source. So, but yeah. And again, I'm not trying to upset anybody. I'm just trying to, this is what you're looking for. The seahorse, that's what we mean when we say scratching. Again, the seahorse lived. It was fine. We fixed it. All right. And then the other one, let me see if I can get it. How do I stop sharing? Okay. Let me do the other one now. Because I think you see the yawn in this one. Pretty sure. I could be wrong. Let's see. All right. Here we go. Wait, that's not the right one. Hang on. Sorry, guys. One sec. Gotta find it. Sorry, guys. Here we go. There we go. All right. Ready, set, go. Maybe. There we go. Oh. This was the other seahorse that was with that seahorse.
Yeah. This one is
not right away. Right. Not as bad, but In one of the videos, I'll have to go back. Well, in the video I actually make, you'll see him do the yawn in the middle of the dip.
Did you see the way it's retracted its trigger repeatedly?
See it putting his face in the bubbles too?
Yep.
It's like, get them out of me. It hurts. So yeah, this one wasn't as bad, obviously, but you can just see him. I mean, I think they like the bubbles. See him with the gills flicking. Yep. All right. So there's my shares for the day. But stay tuned, guys, for the video, because in the video we'll explain more and have more detailed information like what Heather shared. But anyhow, so if you do a freshwater dip and the seahorse starts doing that, you got a ciliate problem. Period. Anything else you guys got to add or questions or thoughts?
Nope.
Holly, you look like you were going to say something.
Nope. I was saying nope. Nope. I think we covered it.
Yeah.
Well, and in the video, I will actually share how I ended up, because that freshwater dip showed me that those two seahorses that I'd gotten from an unreliable source were infected with ciliates or something else, God knows. And in the video, I'll go through exactly the steps that I did to treat it. But we don't want to make this a downer video. We want to, let's go back to Holly's seahorse that reacted not whatsoever, because that's what you want to see, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It can be difficult when you've got seahorses that you think are sick or are sick for one reason or another. And it's very painful for every keeper that truly cares about them, because you want to do your best. And I have a love-hate relationship with disease and treatment because of that.
Well, and I did forget, I wanted to show one more thing here, and then I'll quit my little show and tell here. Okay, so in this video, these are all clips that will be part of the full video. But basically, this I recommend personally, just for your own sake. Obviously, I showed you can do it in a little cup, but just for the seahorses, contentment and whatever, I would recommend something more like this. This was a 5-gallon bucket. Oh, now it won't play. All right, well, never mind. I won't show you, I guess. But you can kind of see it's a 5-gallon bucket. I had a hitch and an airline, and then the seahorse couldn't see outside, because you got to think, as Holly's seahorse could see its house right next to it, which was like, why am I not in there? And then with my little container that I did the freshwater dip on those two seahorses, what they saw was my big ass face, right? I mean, what, that's scary, right? I admit it, that's scary. And, my sink next to them, they're like, where am I at? What is this? That's probably much scarier. You put them in a bucket or something that doesn't have that you can only see them from down and they can't see outside. I just think that makes them feel more like they know something's not right, but they're not freaking out like, what is all this stuff around me? This isn't water, So that and airline, obviously we showed they like the bubbles.
I use the 5-gallon buckets anytime I treat anything, just for that reason, because it's completely enclosed. You can walk in and look at them slowly, and they won't even know you're there because they can't see you through the bucket. And it just makes everything a lot more realistic in terms of what you're trying to assess, because they're not freaking out being in a strange location. And I agree with you completely on that, Kelly.
Thank you, Cheryl. And Melinda also said you recommend a good place to buy seahorses. Salty Reef put up Seahorse Savvy. I mean, Alyssa at Seahorse Savvy is probably the best at this point, nationwide, because she's commercial. Dan, literally, she worked with Dan, so they worked together to perfect their seahorse breeding situation. So I definitely would say trust her for sure. She also won MASNA's Aquarist of the Year.
Yes.
So check that out. And at MACNA, she'll probably be giving a speech. So we'll definitely share that when it becomes available. But also recommended, and Holly, you can kind of help me with this conversation, but I would say if you want to support local, I would find a local breeder through like a reef club, really check them out, research them, but Holly, you're a local breeder. So how does that why would you recommend you?
Well, because we care about our animals, and like Cheryl was saying, we want to do things right. I mean, I know for me, my seahorses originally came from Alyssa's Seahorse Savvy, and they had some babies, and I ended up selling some of the babies, to various people. And the
And
thing
she sent
is,
me
it's
one
hard
too.
to find. Yeah, I did send Kelly some. But the thing is, you can't advertise on Facebook's the selling of live animals.
No, you can't.
So that makes it hard to find, hobbyists that are selling their captive bred seahorses. But one thing you can do is, if you see somebody that's doing a good job on Facebook posts raising their babies, you can always contact them privately and ask.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So if you just pay attention to the community and see who's doing what and being successful and doing things right with those people, you're probably safe. And I highly
Absolutely.
recommend Alyssa's Seahorse Savvy.
Absolutely.
Well, the
I've
thing
done
is,
too much
if
with
you
her
can find
seahorse.
somebody in your locally, like if you have a local reef club, we have several here where I live. And I really enjoy finding people that are looking for young seahorses who want to set up a seahorse tank. And I walk them through the whole process from day one, setting up, cycling, what they're looking for, tank requirements. And I need to know what they want so that I can help them. And I really I don't mind driving, even an hour and a half to help somebody get going with them.
Well, I'm not driving an hour and a half. Sorry, but I will help you
You're not
in any way that
retired.
I can.
I had to drive 2 hours to sell my first batch
Yeah.
of seahorses, because there's, like I've said before, there's nowhere around here where I live that would do seahorses. So
Well, I
had to
love
travel.
but I love your advice about watching for people that are succeeding not only with seahorses but with their fry, because that's a lot of people reached out to me when I was breeding, and that's who got my seahorses, because Ray, how difficult was it in Canada when you were selling? Did you sell to stores? Because
I
we're
sold,
saying, well, hang on, let me finish the question, because we're saying trust reputable breeders, and I stand by that. But there are many stores that care, and I'm going to let you answer, Ray, but in my case, when I finally decided that I had too many seahorses to get rid of and they were taking up my whole house, I did start working with a local LFS, but they were willing to put the seahorses on a different system. They were willing to set up a tank dedicated, so the sump was not connected to the clownfish tanks, because that makes a big difference. I'm not saying you can't buy seahorses from an LFS and they'd be great. You can, but you're just better off and will run into less problems if you go into an LFS and you see seahorses in the tank. Are there other animals in the tank, corals, etc.? Are they seahorse safe? Is the sump connected to the other tanks? In my case, my LFS was willing to set up a dedicated tank for my seahorses to be sold, and they went like hotcakes, and I never had a complaint. But Ray, I'm sorry. Go ahead. You answer. Go ahead.
well, I sold mine through contacts through seahorse.org, which had no restrictions and was a great seahorse forum. And I wish to hell the forums were still active, because they're much more effective than the social media things.
Yeah.
Because you can use the search feature and find so much good information. But it wasn't just through there. Through stores around here, stores were selling imported stuff from Asia, but they would, if people were actively looking for them in the store, they didn't have a regular stock of seahorses, so they would tell the people to get in touch with me, and so then I would sell to them.
That's good. That's a better
I also
system.
had communications with, like I live in London, Ontario, Canada, and I think it's about a 6 or 7 hour drive to get to Montreal. But I had stores in Montreal that would come down to Toronto because they were picking up corals from a place in Toronto. I would drive to Toronto and take pails of these fry down there and sell them to these guys so that they could sell back in the stores. Now, for me, the whole thing was that before I sold to anybody, again, I had to be sure that they weren't going into a combined system. They were going to be in a system on their own. And I had on my website basic knowledge and things that I felt you should know. And the stores were committed to printing off this and giving it to each person that wanted to buy the Seahorse.
Oh, I like that. That's great.
I did that too with mine.
I had one store here in London that didn't want to keep them in stock because he didn't want to set up a separate system. He didn't have the room for it.
No.
He had a website that he was selling stuff online and all across Canada. So he would advertise these seahorses as though they were coming from him. But in fact, when he sold some, he would call me up and I'd run out and or I'd go downstairs and I'd get whatever was needed and I'd package them and put some Chloromex in the bag and then seal it off, take it to him. He would immediately pack it and ship it through his store business. In Canada here, I can't ship without having a special account that I've been approved for and pay a minimum monthly amount of money for, which wouldn't be practical. So he did all this and I got half the selling price and he got the other half. So that worked out fine for me. So it gave me a way to contact people all across Canada. And how do I say it? I didn't have to do anything special other than take a 5-minute drive to run them out whenever sold the Seahorses. He was right close to me here. So the drive was nothing for that. And again, he would print off and send with these Seahorses the information that I wanted passed on.
Well, I want to share real quick 2 things very quickly. First is this is the kind of information you will find on Seahorse Sources group. And Dan literally wrote out everything about why he gives the advice, tank size, substrate, all the basics into setting up for seahorses. And of course, we're all in the group to help. Also, I would say that Ray, you're talking about it made me think of a time when actually I got 2 seahorses from Alyssa Seahorse Savvy through a third party, and it ended up a mess. So I'm gonna clarify. It wasn't her fault. It wasn't the company's fault. Basically, I had gone to my local store, not the one that I dealt with when I sold my seahorses, another one. But I told them I wanted seahorses. This is when I was new, and I knew everybody, but I didn't know them well enough to really, do this kind of conversation. And so I wanted a specific species. I won't go into details or name names, but I talked to Alyssa, and she had them, but they were already pre-sold to the wholesaler to the store. So I asked the store to get them, and the store screwed up. And this is another thing, because Ray, you were discussing your where they would go through you, which is excellent. But in this case, Seahorse Savvy did absolutely everything right. Sent the seahorses, perfect condition, beautiful seahorses. I'm going to show you in a second, to the store. And then when they called me when they arrived, and I raced down to the store, which was like an hour away. And when I got there, apparently they had ordered my 2 seahorses and then 2 extra. And for some reason, they were all in this huge bag. So they made the mistake of opening the bag, taking out their 2 seahorses and putting them in their tanks. and then reclosing the bag. Anybody want to say why that's disastrous?
Well, as
Ammonia.
soon as you open that, the pH changes drastically, and the sudden change and the rapid change, I should say, is going to affect the seahorses, especially for as it goes up, the ammonia becomes much more poisonous. The ammonia is there, but because the pH
Worst things
is
that
down,
I can think of that can happen to a new seahorse owner
I'm listening. Go ahead.
after they've planned for months and done their
I can't think and listen at the same time. That's the only
I
problem.
turned the volume
It
down.
is.
But my seahorses, I finally got them home, because you can't forget either that these seahorses not only had been shipped, then the bag had been opened, they had been exposed to the ammonia, because the pH instantly turns ammonium to ammonia. So they were like burning. And then I still had to drive them an hour home. Those poor guys.
Oh,
I mean,
poor baby.
That's why I
again,
kept Chloramex in the bags.
right? And I'm sure that Seahorse Savvy had something in the bags, but these idiots opened the bag. I don't know. Anyways,
Well, you can
point
open the
being,
bag if you're using Chloramex.
well, maybe she wasn't at that time. I don't know, but I will say, watch the whole video. The seahorses not only survived, but they lived with me for years. But it was pretty awful. So I'm just trying to show things that you may run into. Hopefully not, if you deal directly with a breeder, or if you know your store and trust your store and talk to your store about the things we're talking about. It won't happen. But they were
Aw,
a hot
baby.
mess. I know. I'm gonna stop the video. You guys go
Aw.
watch it if you want to see it. They also love the bubbles. They were kind of burnt, you know.
Kelly.
I like that there was a happy ending, though. Thanks for
There
sharing
was.
that.
I'm trying to like fast forward to the happy ending. I show how I treated them. If this will fast forward. Oh no, that's something on enriching. Okay. Anyways, here they are.
I hate
Whoops.
air stones.
You hate what?
I hate air stones.
I know most people prefer the open airline. I will agree with that. But this is showing them in the methylene blue, and they were not happy there either. But they did, I promise, end up extremely happy, eating, happy. I had them for years. Watch the video. All right, done sharing.
Kelly,
Anyways,
if I
yes,
could
ma'am.
interject for a moment.
Yes.
San Antonio is a big city, and there's several reef clubs and the like, and there's fish stores all over the place. I've been at this for over 15 years. There's one store in San Antonio I will sell to. It is on a closed system, a 65-gallon cube, specifically for seahorses. Nothing else is in that tank except seahorses. And they only buy captive bred from a few people. And
Wonderful.
I'm around here that's actually raising them right now, so I'm it. And they're always calling me. That's the only store I will sell to, because the lady that takes care of their seahorse tank is a long-term seahorse.org member that I've known for years.
Well, I truly hope that someday I ever get this dang website done and you post all your articles and Ray does, and we have a forum, and it can be seahorse.org part 2, or they get they get it going again. I don't care. I just want the information to be available. But right now I would say Seahorse Sources Group is the best source. And I would say, it's about trusting your LFS. It's about, what questions would you ask a store if you were going to buy seahorses from them? What questions should you ask?
First of all, I wouldn't buy from a store. But if I did, I would be asking, when was the last time they ate? Where did they come from? The biggest problem is with these questions, a lot of times you don't get straight answers. Oh, these are captive bred. And you know, because you're looking at a 7-8 inch male that's been there 2 weeks and is not eating frozen, you know darn good and well it's wild caught.
So I'm gonna say you just hit two nails on the head. Number one, how big they are. Seahorses are sold at 3 to 4 inches. They should not be 7.
Thank you.
So that's number one. Good point, Cheryl. So if they're a huge seahorse, they're beautiful, but you're likely going to have a hard time taming that wild beast. Number two, eating. Make them feed the seahorses in front of you. Make them feed frozen, not live. But the thing is, Cheryl, you said you'd never buy from a store, but the thing is, Dan at Seahorse Source sold 90% of his seahorses to stores. So they were good seahorses. I mean, you can't really say I wouldn't. You can say whatever you want. I
No,
would not
wouldn't
say don't buy from a store.
I wouldn't say I wouldn't buy from a store, but what I'm
Right.
saying is there's only one store that I am comfortable with in San Antonio that is honest and tells you what you're getting, where it came from, and gives you the information on how to take care of them properly.
Know who you're dealing with is the key,
Mhm.
correct? I mean, know
Yeah.
your store, know who you're
Mhm.
dealing with, ask questions, ask them how old they are, how long they've been, frozen trained. As Cheryl
Exactly.
said, where they came from. Ray, any other thoughts about that?
Well, the
Because you
biggest
sold the
problem that
stores.
I have is when you tell people you can't trust most LFSs, they're immediately jumping on the fact that they know that this store, they've been dealing with this store for years and buying all sorts of fish and corals and everything, and they've been fantastic. The problem is that they may be great for those things that you are doing. They may not also. You may just think that they were great. But even if they are great in all those things, there are very, very few that know much about seahorses, especially enough to be able to advise
Exactly.
any of their clients on how to look after them properly.
Ray, you caught pots and
Unfortunately,
several other Australian species. My favorite was the day I walked into one of our local fish stores. They had a pair of pots, male and female, and the other I think was a pair of erectus that they just gotten in. So a person walks in and a person says he wants the two pots. So guess what the clerk bags up? The male pot and the female erectus and hands him the bag.
Mm.
And I
Oops.
stopped him dead in his tracks and said, "Whoa, you see the difference here? Now, this is the female pot-bellied seahorse. This is the male pot-bellied. You see the difference in the coronet and the keel and the different." And I went through this whole educational thing. And all of a sudden, the person that's buying them goes, "Never mind, I don't want them. I can't trust
Right.
you guys."
Right, but I mean, and just for the record, anybody watching, we could go down this rabbit hole. It's just like politics.
Yeah.
You could say they're
Mhm.
not paying their employees enough to care enough to learn. I mean, we're
Mhm.
not here to knock anybody. We're just giving
No.
our opinions. And I did want to show real quick. I'm telling you guys, check out Seahorse Whisperer YouTube channel because
Mhm.
if you want to see, here's another one, just to show you, Spuck Jr. This is seahorses eating in slow motion. If you just want to see the snick. Hang on, here
Seahorses
we go.
eating in slow motion.
Yes, watch. That's one of my videos.
Find it. There it goes.
That's
And then,
fast, even in slow motion.
Yeah.
I know, but it gets even better. Hang on.
Yes.
That's part of another video, but I'm pretty sure it shows. Yeah, see, hang on. Here it comes. We'll
Yeah, it's
watch
just
this as we chat. See how
here we
they
go.
look it over,
Yeah, yeah.
suck it up. And I will say seahorses prefer to have the food moving. See how he didn't get it all the whole time, first time?
Yeah,
And he was not a mess. They were fine. And I
yeah.
don't have the volume up. I should have had it up because you can hear a snick. Cheryl, if you don't hear the snick, is that a sign of unhealthiness?
no.
Wait a minute, if you don't do a snick, what?
Okay,
If you
Ray.
don't hear the snick.
Ray, why did you say no?
Well, first of all, I've had a lot of seahorses in my 19 years, and most of them I don't hear snick.
Really?
Same here. Most of mine don't, especially the older ones don't. The younger ones, I hear it more than my ones that I've had for years.
Yeah, I think it also
I
depends on
don't
the
ever hear
individual.
the snick. In my display tank, it's very rare that I hear the snick.
Actually, I'm going to go back 10 seconds. I'm sorry, Holly, to interrupt, but I just wanted to say that's literally coughing. But this guy just had too much of a mouthful. Watch him continue to do that thing. It looks like he's coughing. That's not good. But in this case, the seahorse was fine. These are reed-eye. And he just took too big of a bite. So when they
By the way,
keep
just
doing
to
this,
get back to the LFS situation,
yes, please
to
go
be
ahead.
fair with the LFS, most of them don't know enough about seahorses to even know that they don't know what they need to know.
True.
So they're going by their experience with the rest of the stock that they sell, and assuming that it can't be that much different. So they're not all deliberately telling you the wrong things. It's just that
Yeah.
they don't know that they don't know the right thing.
Exactly. It's like
True,
a friend of
true.
mine that owns a very reputable fish store up on the Texas-Oklahoma border. He called me one day and he goes, I made a mistake. I got some wild caughts, and some people I know that I really like, they're really nice, bought the seahorses, but they can't get them to eat. Can I get some of your captive bred seahorses to teach them how to eat? And I explained to him why that was not going to be a good idea. And I kind of broke his heart, but I wanted to do the right thing for him. And it was really kind of sad. They did finally get them to eat some frozen, but it took several weeks.
Can we just really quickly say how awesome this video is showing the trigger and everything? I'm like,
I love
that
the white
Seahorses.
one too. I love
Those-
it when they're white like that.
Yep, those were my reed-eye. They were awesome. Those were from Seahorse Savvy, for the record.
Pretty.
They were. And I used to worry, like, see that line that was on the mail? The line that, right here, that black line?
Yes.
It's normal.
Yeah, it's normal. There's stuff that you just are like, is something wrong? And it's not.
Yeah.
And the white one, it was so translucent that you could see through it almost.
Yes.
But it was normal. It's just crazy.
Pretty.
Hey,
And
the
that
seahorse
trigger.
I want right now is marble.
All right. I wanted to see if there was anything else to show you guys. Oh, yeah, here. I won't show the whole video, I promise. But this is the video about, like, how I, get the seahorses in, get them comfy. Whoops, now we're going to show ads. All right, I'm going to stop sharing. Go watch the video. But, yeah, we have videos on all that stuff. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, no, Ray, you're right. It's too much to impart in one show or thread. So check out the files. Also that in the Mysis video. Hey, Ray, also feel free to share your website too, because you have great information on that.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Share your site, because you have
My
great
site.
information too.
Oh, geez, my site is so old. It's decades
It doesn't
old
matter.
now. And,
Most of us want the info. We don't care.
there's most of it doesn't have anything to do with seahorses. It's
That's true.
It's the corals, and then things like how I made my own hoods, how to make tank cleaner, things like skimmers, homemade skimmers.
I will still put the link in the description, guys, if you want to check out his site, because it's still valuable. But Spuck Jr., was that brine shrimp or mysis? I think that, the first seahorses, the erectus, in the very beginning of the video, were erectus, and they were eating frozen mysis. And then in the second video, it was adult live brine shrimp, because I think I was doing a video on enrichment, and I just got some slow motion captures and, made it a video. But with that, all that's on the channel, and in Seahorse Sources group is where you're going to find the files that really help. And hopefully we'll get that website going soon. But you're definitely in the right place.
With all these videos that are on the Whisperer, Wednesday's Whisperer thing, how can one pinpoint and get a specific topic? Because I've had nothing but trouble. When I do click in something there and do a search, 9 out of the 10 that come up have nothing to do with Wine Wednesday. There are other people that are putting in. And if you check out a lot of those videos, there's a lot of info that just is garbage.
Right, I agree. So I'm going to show you how real quick. Hang on. Let me share real quick. And this is not perfected yet, guys. I will explain in a moment. But when you want to look for a video that we've done, you go to YouTube, right? So you're on YouTube, just basic YouTube. And then you want to go to Seahorse Whisperer, or I think you can even do one. No, you have to go to Seahorse Whisperer, actually. So go to Seahorse Whisperer, click on the channel, and then what you want to do is search right here. Can you guys see my arrow? So right here is where you search, Wine Wednesday Seahorse Source. And it's going to come up with Ask Seahorse Source Part 1, Ask Seahorse Source Part 2, 3, blah, blah, blah. If you want, and I need to do a better job of tagging them. So if you can't find something, please let me know. But let's say wine, or let's just say Ray. Let's see who comes up with Ray. Okay, that didn't work very well. I haven't tagged very well. So there, it's not perfected, Ray, but wine
Well, it's
Wednesday.
better than what I had.
So
Hey, Shark
point
and
is-
Ray got together at MACNA, it says.
They did 4 years ago. And look at my face. That's a great picture. But I'm just saying, don't search up here. Don't search here. Search in the channel. Wine Wednesday. You're going to get probably the most recent and etc. But or the most popular or whatever. But then you can at least go down to Wine Wednesday. You can also do, you know, videos. I do try, guys. I haven't kept up wonderfully, but if you go to playlists, you can find the basics. I do need to redo some of these, but Seahorse Facts and Education, then you're going to get top 10 false facts, you know, how to set up a seahorse tank. That's an ad, sorry. But I'm just saying, look,
Oh, that's
there's
cute.
There's Cheryl's Wine Wednesday. That was a long time ago, holy moly. And here is how to build a seahorse fry tub that I did with Cheryl. Cheryl, that's you.
my mail. That's
That
my mail
is.
Combs.
And it goes through everything she did to build her tubs. It gives you details, how the screen should be clean. I mean, they're there, but now you know how to search for them. It's better to search within the channel versus within YouTube because unfortunately, you guys don't like and share enough. So it's all your fault. And the more popular videos come up first. So if you did up here, or let's just say in YouTube, if you did Wine Wednesday and not said with the Whisperer, you're going to get, whoa, look, there we are, because we're live. But it's true crime. It's, there we are again. Look at us. 8,000 views. Holy hell. But anyways, my point is, you know, it's not going to show everything of us because you're not in the channel. So go to the channel first and then search. You know, go to the channel, Seahorse Whisperer, search right here. And that's where you're going to get the best. And again, I'll shut up now and stop trying to toot my own horn here. But those videos aren't just made by me. That, you know, Cheryl made one. Lucy's made one. We've made them with Dan, with different people. So it's not just me, it's us. And I would just say we need to update like the setting up the tank video because it's like an hour long. I was trying too hard, but it's still good info. There's a couple things I need to correct and make it a lot shorter. Working on it, trying. I'm sorry.
It never ends. It never ends.
Yeah.
But we never mind the same questions. We love it.
No.
That's what we're here for. So don't ever feel bad. And Melinda wants the link, Ray. So I know I have it somewhere. Let me see if I can grab it real quick. Anything else you guys want to talk about while I'm trying to grab this from Ray?
I'm just gonna, I gotta find how to paste it now.
Or send it to me and I can paste it, like we said.
I was trying to put it in that private chat there.
It wasn't.
There it
Did it go? There we go. Yep, there we go. All right. So here is the site. And again, he described that
It's old.
It's old, but it's still good information, and it does have to do with more than seahorses. I promise you guys, I'm working hard on getting this site up. It's hosted, it's everything. I just got to get the information all put together correctly. But in the meantime, go to Seahorse Sources group because that file section. Did I show that yet? I don't think I did. Did I show it, you guys?
What's
I
that?
don't think I did. Did I show how to get to
Seahorses group? No, you didn't.
Okay, let me do that real quick, and then I'll quit showing and telling. I love my share screen. All right, so if you're on Facebook, just regular Facebook, there's my personal page. Don't take my information, hackers. Let me close my conversation with Ray here. All right, so you'd go to search Facebook, search Seahorse Sources Group, first thing, of course. And then if you're in Seahorse Sources Group, first of all, you have to be a member. So I'm obviously a member and an admin, but it would ask you questions. You have to answer the questions to get in. Cheryl's a tiger. She's not letting you in unless you answer the questions because we can't let people in that are trying to sell dried seahorses or they're, you know, trying to hack or whatever. But once you're in,
yes.
Go ahead, Cheryl.
I would say I always tell people if you're wanting to get onto some of these sites, particularly where I'm admin, give us a little information. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure.
Let us know. Have you kept seahorses before? Because what I'm doing is I literally before anybody's admitted to the groups that I'm admin on, I literally pull up their profiles, and because I'm looking for dried seahorses, and there's a lot of abuses out there that go on,
Sure.
and we don't want those people in groups.
So anyways, once you're in the group, sorry, Cheryl, you're good advice, but you could post something if you wanted, blah, blah, blah. But you can also go right to the top, and even on your phone, sometimes it won't, sometimes they only show the first four and you'll have to, choose the down arrow, but then you go to the file section and that's where you get the good stuff.
That's where, and you have to
On
be a
my
member
page-
to have access to all that information.
On my page, beside media, where the files is on your page, it says more, and you have to click on more and then go to files.
Yeah. Or on a phone, you'd have to do that too. But anyways, hopefully that's helpful, because I know we can say Seahorse Sources group, but then you're like, what's that? So I'll just put that in the comments too, the name of it, because you can just search it. We did post a link earlier, but that's what you're looking for right there, Seahorse Sources group. All right, guys. I mean, we're pulling. I always have to end by 10. I keep telling myself we're going to make this an hour, but it always ends up to. Ray's been sticking with us till the end, which is awesome. But if there's any other questions about freshwater dips, you can ask in the comment section. I always check the comments. I'm bad about getting back if it's like years ago, but if you post something, now, I will definitely see it and get back to you. Go join the group and push me to get that website done. Message me and be like, Kelly, what are you doing? And what are you talking about? Okay. Spuck Jr. asked, this is the end of tonight's Wine Wednesday. So any questions, ask them now before we go. Spuck Jr. said, do these guys eat rotifers, copepods, amphipods, etc.? Cheryl, go ahead and answer.
Copepods only with like dwarf seahorses or fry. They're too small for the larger adults to take them. The larger adults need mysis shrimp or other types of frozen foods. And rotifers, quite frankly, not only are they typically too small for most, even newborn fry, but because they have a spinning motion, it tends to not elicit a strong prey response in seahorse fry. And it varies by species. I know when I was doing my, what was I doing? My great big seahorses.
Mm-hmm.
My engines.
Yes.
When they had fry, their fry would not touch the rotifers. They wouldn't even, they considered them inedible.
Sure.
So it's just.
Ray, go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead, Cheryl.
When I first started raising seahorses, they were reed-eye, and I hadn't got into copepods at the time, and I was feeding enriched rotifers, and that got me through the first week or so until I switched over to San Fran brine, which are smaller than Great Salt Lake brine, and then eventually to the Great Salt Lake brine. But for the reed-eye, I had no problem there. But once I started doing the copepods, I didn't need the rotifers anymore, so I kept on selling them off to clownfish breeders around me. Mm-hmm. And then eventually I got into Erectus, and I didn't need them anymore. And then as far as the other species that I've kept, I never got into breeding them. I've only actually bred the reed-eye and the Erectus.
Well, and I would just say most people that watch, especially newcomers, are more concerned with feeding their pair of seahorses or their two pairs of seahorses, not fry. So when you're talking just your pair of seahorses or your tank of seahorses that you're not talking about fry, we've talked before, and Dan has said before repeatedly, he's had clients that have done nothing but frozen mysis entirely. Yep. That's it. Frozen mysis. That's it. And Cheryl does have a good points about the lipid profile and all that, but I'm just saying you can just do frozen mysis and be fine.
Yeah.
The one thing I would say though is the way I do it is I feed frozen mysis. I feed Hikari or PE mysis, and then I also when I feel like it. It's not every other week. It's not even every month. But when I feel like it, I'll order live mysids or adult brine shrimp, and then I will enrich them. And that's just a huge treat. Well, enrich the adult brine shrimp. But mysids have the profile they need and live. And the brine shrimp, when you enrich them, you're just giving them like a boost, like vitamins, right? And it's a live treat. That's how I look at it. Go ahead, Cheryl. I can hear you wanting to talk.
Well, I was going to say one of the cool foods that we could get now is I believe it's called the Krill pacifica. It's
Right.
saltwater krill from the Arctic. And
my seahorses wouldn't eat them though.
My abs won't eat them either.
Nope, not
Really?
frozen or live. Nope. Won't
Mine
touch
ate them like they were gangbusters.
So there you go. It just
I
depends
have
on the
to try
seahorses
that.
too.
Do those come in a small pack,
Yes.
like a little pack? I might
Yes.
want to try that just to see.
I did when my store was out of any of the even mysis period frozen mysis. They didn't have any, and so I tried the krill, thinking, well, it kind of looks like it. And they stared at that stuff and were like, no. I think one seahorse tried to eat it, and I think they have a harder shell.
It
I
does.
think that's
Yeah,
part of it.
it does.
My seahorses did not like it.
Okay, was it the Krill pacifica? Because they're very small. They're about the same size as the Corymysis. Versus there's other krill varieties
Maybe
that are
that's
bigger
it.
than PE mysis.
Maybe that's it. I'm going to look up.
have to
Well,
get the
first of
right
all,
one.
guys, I'm in a sharing mood tonight, so I just wanted to show you again just an example. So if you search mysis on the channel, you're
Okay,
going to find different videos. Hang on, Cheryl. I'm going to get back to it. I promise.
Yeah.
But this is Tammy on MACNA.
I was going to say, that looks like
2020.
Tammy.
Talking about seahorses, pipefish, and feeding and the scientific stuff behind it and all the studies she's done and baster training. I mean, there's just all sorts of stuff if you search right here. That's all I wanted to show you. And then I would say, I'm going to look up. You said it's called what?
Krill.
Pacifico?
Pacifica?
Yeah.
All right, let's see. Pacifica krill. Well, I found plankton. No,
I always
that's
reverse
not what I want.
names.
Okay, so this I'm going to share what I'm looking at, so you guys don't
It
think
comes
I'm
in an
crazy
orange
just staring
pack.
at a screen. So is this it? Is this what we're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay, that's not how mine looked. So maybe I just had.
Although
that does
that
look like
price is
mysis.
outrageous
Right.
for that stuff. It's
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How much is it? Usually?
that's it. That's the stuff I
Oh,
got.
it's San Francisco Bay brand. I think the one you just had up.
Okay, yeah. This is the one I get.
Oh, here we
Except
go.
I do the flat
Okay.
packs. And I
But
got them for,
wait. What is gamma? Isn't that where they radiate it, or no? Am I? Is that just a brand name?
Blister.
Looks like a brand name.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
it is.
yeah.
I was thinking of when Marina
Gamma
talks
blister
about,
is the little cubes that you get. You can buy the flat
Okay.
packs or the cubes.
That's
The blister
what-
packs are the little
Well,
cubes.
you guys, am I crazy, or didn't Marina from Australia talk about how when feeds
They
are transferred
radiate
into
their
Australia, they
stuff.
radiate
Yeah.
it?
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't it something like gamma rays, or am I crazy? I might be crazy. Okay. Anyways, well, good. I'm going to try that too now, Cheryl, because they are much smaller than the type I got.
Yeah.
The type I got was
The other thing that to keep in mind with these is they're more of a red color. And I've seen some of my
mine was
seahorses
like this.
getting more red after they're eating them.
Gotcha.
What about the
All right, well, I'm
San
gonna stop
Francisco Bay brand? Do they do the krill too? Is it the
I don't
same?
know, but if you do the BioPure frozen krill, look at how huge those pieces are.
No, see, this is the kind I got, Holly. They're
Okay,
huge.
gotcha.
They're like peppermint shrimp. or
Yeah,
something.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want
No, that was
Cheechum to
not-
eat their tank mates.
Hang on, let me try.
This
to
is
share
why I
the
like
actual
the other
right
stuff.
page.
And the seahorses, the first couple times they snick them because they're a little harder. They aren't quite sure. But once they get used to it, they scarp it down. Yeah, see, those are much better.
See, yeah, these are too
Oh
big.
yeah, look how
See
big.
'em? Yeah, they're like
Yeah.
peppermint shrimp. And my seahorses looked at them
Little
like,
shrimp. Although I
is that
have
what is
to
that?
say, I have seen my seahorses eat table shrimp, pieces of table
Really?
shrimp, because I gave them to my crabs before, for a treat. And the seahorses go after it too.
You just never know what they're gonna. I mean, you
What are
just
they
never know.
thinking?
Well, what was funny is
I would say steer clear from frozen brine shrimp, because even when they say enriched with spirulina, enriched with all this stuff, we recommend rinsing the foods anyways, frozen foods. So once you rinse it, I mean, I understand it's supposed to be in them, but they're frozen. I don't know. Ray is raising his finger. I'm
They're
gonna let
not
Ray
the
talk. But do
right
you think that the
nutrition,
frozen?
though, aren't they?
But if they enrich them, supposedly, if they enrich them, they are. Like if I enrich brine shrimp, I can make it the right profile. But if they do that
And
and
then
then freeze them,
them.
I don't know. I personally never trusted it. Ray, speak.
I just wanted to get back to the live food bit for a fraction
Okay.
section there when he was asking about copepods or amphipods. For adult, juvenile and adult, you don't want anything smaller than amphipods. And if you are lucky enough to have reef tanks and are also spreading out into the seahorses, you can get amphipods and you can get mysid shrimp that you can capture from that reef tank and seed the sump of your seahorse tank.
Wait. Go ahead. I'll let you finish. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, the biggest problem is
Hang on, Cheryl. Let him finish.
If you're really adventurous, you can also culture them yourself, but it's one hell of a pile of work.
Yeah.
Especially with the live mysid, because they're so cannibalistic.
Exactly what I was going to say.
But
I've propagated them, but they are a pain to work with.
Yeah.
Well, wait, before we move forward.
You can get a decent culture just by using a tank with a hell of a pile of rock soil in it. And that lets the Napoli hide and avoid a lot of the predation. It just means that when you want to harvest, you're going to stir up a lot of dirt as well as the mysids or amphipods and capturing the adults. You want to use a mesh that's large enough to capture the adults, but leave the Napoli in there.
I have one comment real quick, guys. And the thing is, I'm just going to be the bad guy, the devil's advocate here and say, I would never do that ever, 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 because it was trained into my brain. You have to have separate systems. Don't ever cross contaminate. Not even a net can go in a reef tank and then go in a seahorse tank. No. So if you're talking about taking foods from a reef tank, how do you know they're not contaminating?
Well, first of all, you do several rinses anyway before you're going to put it in.
Oh, so you left that out.
In my 19 years, I've never ever had a problem taking from the reef tanks and putting in the seahorse tanks. And I think it's mainly because the mysid shrimp and the amphipods are probably not carrying the
they don't have shells.
Disease factors that are going to be problematic to seahorses.
Yes.
That's not something that I know as a scientific fact. It's something that I decided many years ago after it being successful that I decided it was just a good theory and it worked.
Well, I'm not disagreeing with you particularly. I'm just saying Dan's talked about even a drop of water from one tank to another. So I like the fact that you pointed out you rinsed them. And I do have to point out that, Ray, your reef tank was probably clean as shit. So, I mean, many people might have a reef tank that's more dirty, that has more problems, maybe has ick, whatever. And then if you don't rinse that food enough, live or not, it's going to transfer something. So I'm just being devil's advocate, saying make your own call on that kind of thing.
Actually,
because it worked for you.
Most of the harvesting I did were the tanks that fed my reef tanks. I had one principal reef tank, and I had a few others, but I had smaller tanks, like 55-gallon breeder tanks, that I would grow out corals in and then move them to the bigger tanks. And those are the tanks that I usually was able to do the best harvesting for the mysids and the amphipods. And it's best if you set up ahead of time with a siphon hose in the area that you know that they are cavorting. Like if you've got a reef tank If you go down at nighttime with a flashlight with a red lens over it and shine it around, you can see these mycid and the amphipods in areas, and they'll be usually they have preferred areas. So once you know those areas, you can get the siphon tube set up and wait until nighttime, and then go down with the lights out, and you can use this red lens, which doesn't seem to bother them for some reason, like white light does. Mm-hmm. And once you see them around that end of the hose there, then you do an immediate siphon. You don't get all of them in the area because they're so damn swift. But with some practice, you can get them. And you might only get 3 to 5 each time you do a siphon. But you don't need all that many to actually get a start to a culture.
Yeah.
Well, I go ahead, Cheryl.
There's also a couple of different types of mycin generators and copepod generators and stuff, whereby you're actually using air and screening to move the newborn nepali into a separate tank, and then you just keep the adults going in their tank. And basically, I have a couple of those that I build. I don't use them all the time, but when I do, they actually work because it separates the adults from the newborns. I can harvest the newborns to feed fry, and then the adults keep propagating and also grow, and then they get eaten too.
For me,
but Cheryl,
and I also had 10 gallon tanks that were set up because when you capture these napli, then what you get this week is going to eat what you gather a week to 10 days from now.
This is the difficulty, is you have to have multiple tanks and you're continually having to rotate them through.
But
and Cheryl, would you collect foods from a reef tank?
I'm sorry?
Would you collect foods from a reef tank?
I don't have a reef tank.
I know, but I mean, if you did, would you? I'm just trying to show every angle because Ray has made it work.
You don't know what it's come from.
And I had a problem with that when I bought adult brine shrimp for 6 seahorses that I wanted to enrich. They brought something in that was even worse than I already had.
You didn't rinse them first?
I did. They were just old and not good.
Oh, wow.
I don't know. But I mean, I do agree with what you're saying. Maybe I didn't rinse them good enough, Ray, or something like that, because when you rinse them, they don't have shells. They're likely not carrying anything. I'm not trying to scare anybody. If this system is working for you, it obviously worked for Ray for Ray 4 years. I'm a nervous wreck when it comes to my seahorses. I'm like, I got to do everything right, make sure they're okay,
What do you mean they don't have shells? They have an exoskeleton.
Well, I don't know. I just mean, like, usually when you hear about, sorry, I'm trying to do 2 things at once. But when you hear about things coming in, it's usually on like a snail shell. You're right, they have an exoskeleton, but it's not, can it carry things the same way like a rock or a shell would?
The thing they'll carry most likely is bacteria. That's why you use the peroxide.
And guys, I do have to mention, whoops, sorry, stupid computer. I haven't gotten many questions on the Ask Seahorse Source Part 4 post. Let me go try to find it and show you guys. Please go and post questions on there about Artemia, hatcheries, fry, all that stuff. Even if you're new to seahorses and are interested in breeding, the Artemia part of it, the brine shrimp, the hatchery, the cleaning of it, the peroxide is so important. You want to be there and ask questions. So let me go try to find that. Go ahead.
Post something that'll really give Dan a good laugh.
Sure.
I don't think you want me to.
Uh-oh. Maybe not.
We've known each other too long.
Oh, boy. I'm scared of what you're talking
Cheryl.
about.
What do you got?
No.
Hang on, real quick. I'm going to avoid that topic there because I'm scared. But real quick, just to let you guys know, on Facebook, on Seahorse Whisperer page, you can see all my stuff. Oh, well, you're going to see Ray's link right there. You're going to see all our Wine Wednesdays. You're going to see Treating a Seahorse with Ammonia Poisoning. And then we'll talk about MACNA in a minute. But I know somewhere there is a link to this.
I'm
Okay.
really glad
So
Alicia got the award at MACNA. That was wonderful
me
to
too.
see because I'm in daily communication with her and she is running like crazy.
Sorry, I'm trying to mute it. I don't know how. There we go. Sorry, Cheryl. Go ahead.
I was just saying I'm really happy that Alicia won the MACNA award because she has been going crazy, killing herself trying to keep up with everything. And they had some flooding a while back, and it's been a rough year for everybody. And
Absolutely.
she's doing
totally
an outstanding job.
Yeah, she always does. She always has. She's been so helpful to me over the years, just with advice about everything. And I know she's really busy. So I have a question though about
wait, Holly.
Speaking of MACNA, how do we join that?
Hang on 1 second. I promise we'll go to MACNA, but I just wanted to point this out, guys. This post on Seahorse Whisperer site on Facebook, and it's shared in Seahorse Sources group, is where I need you guys to go and ask questions, because we have a list of questions for Dan and it shows part 1, part 2, part 3. Part 4 is going to be about Artemia, raising fry. Yeah, I didn't mean
wish it was that easy.
The peroxide, right?
Hey.
The peroxide that all the experts use when they're doing our hatching Artemia. So I need you guys' questions. So go there, please. And I can't show them apparently.
I did my bit.
Ask your questions.
I did my bit a few days ago. I called him up about something else and asked him when he was going to do part 4.
Yeah, exactly.
Good job.
There you go. But I need all you new people to ask questions. So go post them. Okay, Holly, go ahead with your question.
Okay, so the Seahorse event, the virtual event for MACNA is on Friday. But when I went to the MACNA site to register, you could only register for live MACNA. There wasn't anything for that specific event.
Okay.
So how do you do that? Are you guys going to make a link? Because I did add the event. I have the event, on my calendar.
Who was the guy? What's the name of the guy that was doing all the additions for people that couldn't attend, but we're going to do it remotely?
Is it Kevin, the guy that runs MACNA? Is that him?
Yeah, I think it's Kevin.
Okay, Kevin runs MACNA, but hang on, I'm trying to find it to share. So again, actually, I'll just share now and just show you guys what I'm looking at.
I found the event on the MACNA schedule, but you couldn't click on it to.
I know. Hang on. Let me explain. So if you go to Seahorse Whisperer Society for the Seahorse and Pipefish event, you scroll down, or actually you just go to events. Come to think of it, more. Nope. There it is. Okay, events, and you find the event. If you go to this event on Facebook, which is the 4th annual Seahorse and Pipefish MACNA event. And it's CT, not EST, by the way. So it's 1:30 p.m. CT.
Mm-hmm.
And if you say going to this event, then you'll get notifications about the discussion in this event. And this is where Felicia will add a link to join virtually. Because they did do it differently this year. Women in Reefing, by the way, I'll just show you that, guys, too. So, actually, I don't know why I stopped sharing. Real quick, I'll take your questions in 1 second. But
can you message me Facebook, that so I can register?
I sure can. I'll put the link in the description also. But this is for the Seahorse and Pipefish event, which will have a virtual option where Felicia basically is going to do some sort of, maybe not restream, but like Google event or something where people virtually can join. You can't register specifically for this event anywhere but on Facebook because they just did it differently with
MACNA. I did put I was going, so that means the link will show up on there when it's time, and then we just click.
Absolutely. And if you're going to MACNA, you just have to have a ticket to MACNA and be there. There will be, arrows and everything to show you where the event is physically. Hang on, let me show the last thing. Women in Reefing has an actual page. So if you're interested in Women in Reefing, if you're going to MACNA, The event, hang on, the event is the first thing. You don't have to do anything here because there won't, unfortunately, be a virtual option, I don't think. There might be, but so you should definitely say going. And then in the discussion, if we are able to do something virtual, you'll see it there. But everything kind of register-wise, if you're virtual, is on Facebook. If you're going to MACNA, as long as you have a ticket to MACNA, there will be information about where these events will be physically held. Okay. That's what I wanted to say.
Now, after all the work I've done all these years, can somebody please register me for it and get me out there and buy me It's a joke. I'm kidding.
No, listen, guys. I
wouldn't mind a ticket to MACNA myself.
Well, I will say that last year my ticket, I had won it at the MACNA previously, so that's one of the prizes that they give at MACNA when you're there. And actually going to MACNA is just so incredible. You meet so many people, and you get to actually see the faces behind the names and the brands, and it's incredible, and it's so much fun. And this year there's actually like a before party at Paul's house. I am doing everything in my power to get there. But luckily, there are so many people in the community that whether or not I get there, Felicia McCulley, who is one of my mentors in Seahorses, will be running the Seahorse and Pipefish event. So she will be there. And then at the Women in Reefing, Joanne and Paula and everybody else will be running it. So, I'm trying to get there with everything I can. But even if I'm not there, it's worth going to. I promise. So we didn't do anything spectacular. There's not like prizes and guest speakers because we thought it'd be better to do something like this. Just people getting together that want to talk about seahorses, that want to learn about seahorses, or want to acknowledge women in reefing. So definitely go. If you're going to MACNA, please share those posts so that people know about the events and can go. That's all I got. Any other questions? I know I cut you guys off kind of. Sorry.
I'm sleepy.
I know. We're gonna call it. It's 10:07. I have to pick up the daughter from work soon. I know. But I would say again, seahorses are not hard, guys. You just got to set up right. We kind of get into these detailed topics, and sometimes it's something you'll never see. I pray that your seahorses never need a freshwater dip, right? We just don't want you to be scared if you have to give one. So that's the size of that. We'll discuss the topic for next week and do a post. But definitely go join Seahorse Sources group and go like Seahorse Whisperer Society so you can see these events and etc. when they come up. And if you're going to MACNA, go to the event.
And they aren't as slow as most people think. Look at that snick.
Oh, I know. And
seahorses are fast when they want to be. I'll tell you what.
When they want to be. And I would say we didn't really cover the flow question. Maybe that'll be next week because one of his questions were flow, and that's really a detailed topic where we could go an hour or two.
Did you see the picture I posted of the seahorse fry where it showed the seahorse and superimposed on this what was the snick in one frame on my camera?
Oh yeah. That was in last.
I actually sent that to a friend of mine who's also into reefing, and because he's a professional photographer, I said, how did this happen? And he goes, it's one picture. You got it one superimposed on the other. And he's going, did they really snick that fast?
I'm trying to find it to show it real quick. Here we go.
Yeah.
I found it. Hang on, let me get back to you guys. Here we go. Here it is. Here's the picture she's talking about. And if you want to learn more about it, we talked about it. I think it was last week.
Yeah.
Was it last week?
Yeah.
Whatever week was Cheryl's Tanks and Tips.
It was a couple weeks ago.
That's what it was.
And sometimes, I know we were talking earlier about the snick, you don't always hear it. They don't always make a sound.
Right.
But sometimes some of them, when they snick, it's so loud you can hear it across the room.
There's my picture.
Yeah.
I believe it was a 3-day-old. I know it's a Combs fry. You can see the food up near the snout and the silhouette. Nothing down near the actual snout. You can see the seahorse defecating, and he's still got orange in his tummy.
Yeah, he's pooping and eating at the same time.
And he would have been eating, copepods at this point, not brine shrimp.
There's his snout eating, superimposed. And there's his defecation.
And
Woo!
when I saw this picture, I thought, how the heck did my camera screw this up?
Oh, no, it did amazing. Holly, did you have a question? Last question?
No,
Or you were saying something?
Oh, no, I was talking about this. I said we were talking earlier about they don't always make the sound. But sometimes when they do, it's so loud. I've had people in my house visiting and hear that sound, and you can hear it across the room. It's so loud sometimes.
It depends on how hungry they are and how much competition they have and how big they are. You get a,
do they control
go get
that
yourself
sound then, Cheryl?
Go get yourself an 8-inch male.
Wait, you guys, you're talking over each other.
Yeah.
Cheryl, you go first, then Holly.
Like I said, Holly, go get yourself a big 8-inch male, put him in your tank, and look out. Everybody's going to be making big snicking sounds.
We'd have to be new because I already male and nobody's making snick sounds in that tank.
I wouldn't have an 8-inch male. I'm not going there.
It's more the younger
All
one
right.
noticed. But my question was, can they control that sound then? Is that something that there's a reason sometimes they make a sound or they don't? Or is that something they can control?
It most likely is an intimidation factor. It's like if you have a single pair in a tank together, you might hear some snicking noises, but that's going to be very rare. But where you
wait a minute, Cheryl, I actually researched this for this video, and I'm going to show you guys the video real quick. This is the video I'm talking about. Can you hear it?
Each species only contains 3 to 4 basic.
Can you guys hear it?
Yeah, can you turn it up a little low?
Come from those 3 to 4 basic pigments.
No.
Melanophores are the most common pigment cell, and they contain melanin.
Look at what happened.
Okay, wait. Hang on, Cheryl, because I want them to hear this. Hang on.
Its nervous system.
This is in 10 fascinating seahorse facts. And I'm talking about the colors, but hang on, listen to what I say about snicking. If you can't hear it, I'll repeat it.
Stressors or injuries, ammonia or bad water will also make a seahorse turn very dark.
Okay.
This is little Walled, the moodiest seahorse for any reason at all.
John changing colors.
To show his brother.
Purple.
Hang on.
Many things cause a seahorse to change its color. At nighttime, seahorses will typically darken up.
We don't care about the color. I wanted to hear the
snick.
snick.
Darkness and their surroundings.
This is Seahorses wrestling. This just shows you guys what you can see in these videos. I think this is it. Primitive teeth. Here we go. I'll shut up.
When I said in my last video that seahorses eat slowly, what I meant is that the time it takes them to feed is longer than that of most fish. But the way that they eat is actually very quick. With no teeth, the seahorse relies on a technique called pivot feeding to eat. The trigger, located under the jaw at the base of the throat, is actually the hyoid bone. When the seahorse gets close enough to its food, it lines itself up, turns its nose down above the shrimp or prey, and with a sudden burst of speed, the sternohyoideus muscle contracts, pulling the trigger. The head pivots as the snout snaps upward, and the seahorse inhales a bunch of water, drawing in the shrimp at the same time. It's such a powerful form of suction that you'll sometimes see smoky puffs of excess water and food escape through the gills. Along with no teeth, seahorses also have a very primitive stomach, which doesn't store food well, meaning they have to eat quite a bit. The seahorse's stomach should never look caved in.
Sorry guys, I'm trying to find the snicking part.
This female had actually just done an
It's in the candy store.
Hang on.
Let's quiet things down.
Oh, here it is.
So you can hear it.
Yeah, there's a snick.
And Cheryl, you think they're competing?
Yeah, that's part of it.
I think when I researched, what I learned was basically it's that whole scientific hyoid bone crap. It's when the trigger snaps back, something happens in their head
Exactly.
that causes the.
But the thing that,
Yeah.
that starts it is the competition for food.
Oh yeah, well
Yeah.
you're right about that. Sure.
The other thing is too. Remember, they not only have the snick sound, the impact, but they also have the growl if they're mad.
Yes, they do growl. Let's talk about the growl real quick, and then we got to call it. Ray's looking tired. But I will say, guys, I'm going to rewatch this. I hate rewatching this and seeing myself. But whenever I show videos like that, I sit there like, oh, I love
You
it,
remember
Seahorse."
that?
Yeah,
I love them.
We need to get some.
I have watched that before
audio
too. It's a good video.
of the actual grilling also, because I've had so many people say, all of a sudden I was holding him, I was getting ready to do this, and all of a sudden he just started shaking and made this awful sound, and you're thinking, there's this little 3-inch seahorse, and this person's totally freaked out. And it's one of those things where, yeah, they do know how to make sounds. And the growling, because they do it in conjunction with vibration, is considered actually a defensive mechanism.
Mm-hmm. Scare predators. But Ray, hey, if you got to go, no worries. We're only going to be 5 more minutes. No worries. But have you okay, you go, Ray. We'll question you next week. But
no, I've never been much into hearing much in the way of growling.
Well, the growling, she calls it growling. She calls it growling, but that's not, Holly, I bet you have. If you tried to have a seahorse hitch on you and it's not used to you, or if you're doing something with the seahorse, a pouch evacuation or something like that, it's not, you hear a sound, humans hear a sound, but it's more like they, as she said, they do something in their bones.
I've heard it's like grinding bones, but I've never heard it myself. Mine have never done that.
Yeah, I haven't.
Mine did in a pouch.
Anyway,
even when you did pouch evacuations, Ray, even when you did pouch evacuations, they didn't?
Never.
Wow. He takes care of his seahorses. Night, Ray.
Night.
Good night, Ray.
But yeah, no, I know what you're talking about, Cheryl. I felt it. And it's something you like. It's so weird that you feel it like you feel it. You don't even hear it. You like
it's vibration is what I've heard. They're vibrating their body,
freaky.
And it's like grinding bones. I've heard it's really freaky, but it's never happened to me. Dandy has to me dead. His thing is, and he doesn't do it anymore. I've had him so many years. He's used to me now and doesn't really get scared. But when he was younger, he used to play dead. Whenever I handled him, he'd get scared and he'd play dead, but never the growling.
Well, I can say I've experienced it when I was doing a pouch evacuation or whatever. If I had a seahorse that I'd already had to do a pouch evacuation, no. But the first time when you're handling a seahorse in the tank and they're like, it is, as Cheryl said, a defense mechanism. And it's like if you were a fish getting ready to eat it and this weird ass seahorse is like making this growl.
I want to give you one.
It's creepy.
It was my
but they're doing it on purpose.
It was my wildcat Combs male. And his pouch seemed to be a little stressed out. And he was eating, but basically I was just overly concerned. So I picked him up in my hand and he started growling. Next thing I know, he shoots me in the eye with a jet of water out of the top of his head.
Lord.
Takes the head down and slips out of my hand, going.
Yeah.
I have
never
that's
seen
cool.
that
quite like that. Worked.
Never seen that before since like that. He was definitely talking to me, and he was definitely pissed off.
Get away from me, lady. I know. Okay, you guys, I am going to have to call it for the night. My kid's messaging me to pick her up, but thank you so much. No,
kidding.
Too dark. But thank you so much to everybody who came. I hope to be at MACNA at the events to see you guys if you're going. If you're not, please message me and send me pictures. I'm still hoping to be there. But either way, thank you for coming to Wine Wednesday. If you have topics you want discussed, or as always, come and ask your questions. That's what we're here for. But we just love being, with you as a part of the Seahorse community. So thank you, all of you, Seahorse Whisperers.
Well, thank you.
And let's do a cheers. Have a happy Wine Wednesday. Cheers.
Happy Wine
See you next week.
Thursday. That's for tomorrow.
Hey, and wait a minute. Don't forget to go post questions on the Ask Seahorse Source